Thank you all for your patience. All right. All right, so let's get back to it. Okay, so we finished that, I believe. Speciation, Negro, speciation. Okay. So there are 3 steps in this process of speciation. The first step is isolation, and that happened when we were captured and enslaved. The second step is the dynamic effect of the new environment. That is, any new creature in a new environment, it has to survive, right? So after this isolation, now the creature has to do all that it must do in order to respond to the climate, in order to meet its nutritional needs, and also any competition for that nutrition. That is finding the fitness for survival in the new environment. So captured and enslaved, we were isolated. Inside that isolation, we had to survive. And that meant surviving the climate, the food issues, and the competition issues for survival related there. Then the third step is in speciation itself, that is making a species. The speciation itself is what is called adaptation. And it is that adaptation which marks the origination of the new species. That is, whenever, we've said this many times, whenever something is a new life, an organic life is transplanted or moved from one environment to another, it has 3 choices: migrate, change, or die. Migrate means go back to where you came from. Change means suit yourself for the new environment that you're in, or die because you can't adapt. Well, we didn't go back and we didn't die, so we adapted. And the product of that adaptation of these particular creatures is what we call the Negro. The Negro became a reality in that new environment, or in this new environment. Dr. John Cairns, in another episode of this, we explained in detail earlier. Dr. John Cairns' 1988 experimental findings published in the NIH under the title "The Origins of Mutants Under Selection." That's another thing. X-Men, the X-Men. It's like, don't think it's not related to the fact that you got Malcolm X and you got all the X-Men with all their different powers and capabilities. Just think about the phenomenal, magnificent, genius people that have come out of that particular history, that have skill sets on anything that we are allowed into. We take that thing over. You know that. We take that thing over, right? You remember when Doug Williams, the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl or what have you, and where is it now? How many black quarterbacks are there now? You allow me to use that term just to move on the conversation. It's like, we're the X-Men. We're the mutants, man. We're the mutants. It's like we're manifesting skill sets like, wow, where does that come from? Man, I was just thinking about, so like, whatever. James Brown, right? I'm going, James Brown. It's like, we're gonna keep moving. But it's like, I mean, you gotta just listen and think about how different he was for his time, right? And just little songs, even when you think about Prince, I'm talking music right here. And Lil Wayne, just to say that, right? It's like Lil Wayne. I've seen in so many different places, it's like he does not write. He doesn't write. But they cover some of his lyrics, and when people break those lyrics down, it's like you can see the genius in it. And you talk about entendres, double entendres, blah blah blah. You got math and science, and I'm not just him. There's just so many others. Where does that come from, right? So So we are the mutants in a very real sense. It's like the truth is stranger than fiction. Let's keep on, Fahim. All right. So this Tyson. Let me see here.
I'm here. Go ahead.
No, actually, Brenda, you need to handle this for me. Brenda, call Ira, let him know that I'm in the class, I'll be done, but get the details that he may have for us, and then you can either call Yolanda, text it to me, and let him know the class will be over a little after 10, and then I can talk to him.
Okay, I'll do that now. Assalamu alaikum. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, son. So, you all can know this. Inna lillahi inna ilayhi rajiun. Some of you know, and Georgetta would join us on the line. I would call her my Monterey Bay. Inna lillahi inna ilayhi rajiun. She passed away earlier this week, and so the janaza arrangements and everything are still at work, and that was her husband that was calling me. All right, so going on, so under the origins of mutants under selection, how natural selection mimics mutagenesis. This is the lactose lactase experiment that showed that conclusions. I'm trying to go. That there are genetic mechanisms that cause mutations in an organism when the organism is stressed. And these mechanisms are involved with rewriting the genetic code to upgrade the organism to fit the environment that they are in. We did a whole segment on it, so I'm just going to read to the conclusions here. Said that a Negro is the adapted species originating in North America, born of the captured human beings from Africa in the slave trade. I'm sure there's some animal, some creature, and even some organic life. I think about I think watermelons, or maybe even sweet potatoes, or some other. There's certain fruits that are here in North America that were actually transplants from other countries. I know that's the case. So similarly, the brand new human species was one born on and out of the experimental clinic designed to cause us to dysfunction in the vital areas of our lives. So that's just a biological scientific fact of this process of speciation is what brought about the existence of the Negro. So we say here, it was in Allah's plan that it was not the end, that process. It was not the end. It was only the beginning. It was the beginning of the final act in the last days and one of its signs. We're not going to elaborate on it right now because going forward, that is also going to happen. One of the things I will mention is that it says, and when the slave girl becomes pregnant for her mistress, when the slave girl becomes pregnant for her mistress, that's one of them. I could elaborate on that, but I don't want to do that right now. But the point is that let's just use just as an example, I can use Mos Def for example. Mos Def in his piece, something the Lord has made. Something the Lord has made. When you go get that video, DVD, whatever, I'm sure you can stream it somewhere. Telling you about another X-Man, right? So he's like an X-Man character there, real life, but his skill set is like what is just amazing, right? But not getting credit for that amazingness and that being taken to the glory of someone else. But it was predicated on a skill set, not that the master had, quote unquote, using that, but what the quote unquote, what the slaves had. I'm putting it in parallel principle in terms of that. So when the slave girl becomes pregnant for her mistress, meaning the leadership that they need is in the people that they oppressed, right? And that's what happened. And with Barack Obama becoming the president in 2008, that's also a sign. Now look at the quality of leadership. Yeah, I know Barack Obama, he's got his problems. I ain't even tripping on that. I got that. And I still go with Carter G. Woodson and say, if you haven't done for yourself what you should have been doing for yourself, it doesn't matter who becomes the leader after the revolution or what have you, because if you haven't done for yourself what you should be doing for yourself anyway, you're not going to have any more before or after the change takes place. That's my treatment of his quotation. So it's like, I'm not looking for salvation from the White House. I'm not looking for salvation from the White House. But nevertheless, that being said, when you look at the caliber and the quality of leadership represented, call it what you will. You can call it facade, you can call it whatever, but substantively has not the quality of leadership from the White House, okay, diminished? Has it not diminished? Where are the real, strong, solid leadership, character-formed white leaderships, quote unquote? Where are they at? Why is it that some of the best well-formed minds and thinking, etc., who's it coming from? It's coming from the quote unquote the ex-slaves, descendants of ex-slaves, right? But let's move on. The only way to begin to have an appreciation or perception that can see the justification of the magnitude of Allah's compensation to the descendants of the once captive chattel slaves is to get a sense of the scope of the travesty of the 400 years of their life in North America. That is, when we talk about the reward, and let's go ahead and say that, as the reward, Allah has given, remember, Allah is never unjust to any of his creatures. Allah was present, never absent at any time when the whip was cracked and the person was stolen and the ships were boarded by the slaves and the slave master. Allah was never absent or asleep at the time, and it was just and fitting for his plan. And Allah has rewarded, with this very consciousness, Allah has rewarded the descendants of that experience with the ultimate grace. And this is what you have to get to the point where you have to appreciate both. You have to appreciate what is Al-Islam really, really, really. Not, yes, as my brother Tyson pointed out, it's like, this is not a costume party. It's not about looking like. It's not about any kind of optics in that sense. It's like, no, this Al-Islam, the real thing that Allah revealed, and all of its power, unrefracted by culture, the pure, I'm going to put it this way, uncut Al-Islam, that's what Allah set these people up for. He set these people that were stripped down to the totality or to the fundamentals of their human reality, to where we call each other, what's up, soul? What's happening, blood? It means what? That's all that was there. All we are is just soul and blood. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has his plans that I need to get all that other stuff off of my creature so that I can set them up to be purely when you talk about the computer, reformatted. It can be reformatted, rebooted. When you erase the hard drive, where it's like, boom, take all that off. So all you have now is just the system that's ready to receive whatever you load up on it. That's what happened with it. Allah allowed us to be stripped down to pure humanity, and then blessed us to come through a process where we can reconnect with pure Al-Islam, with our pure humanity. Make a note of that. The reward of Allah to us for what we have suffered is a pure connection to the pure religion with our pure human nature. Now, all of us have to keep doing what we have to do to purify our human nature, but that's what has happened. That's God said, I'm going to connect. I'm going to strip you down, do the agency of, and they'll have to pay what they have to pay for what they did. But what's going to be there is just a human being, the human nature, to put it just human. But because of their dehumanization, which is to take away the history, the language, the culture, the religion, the geography, blah, blah, the disconnection. But that's just and fitting for my plan, because I want that original pure nature to come back. I want it at the surface, so that as I grow it up through the three wombs of darkness, when I bless it, just put it like that, when I bless it with that pure nature, making a pure connection with the purity of the religion, not refracted by somebody else, but their soul connected to the religion without a go-between. I hope you understand. We're nobody's stepchild in this religion, okay? So that's the reward. That how big the problem was. Let me go ahead and read this hadith of the Prophet to make this point. The Prophet said the amount of reward is in accordance with the amount of suffering. Come on now. How much suffering have the Bilalians suffered? Right? How much suffering? How you measure that? How you weigh that? How much does that weigh? How much does that weigh? The reward is in accordance with the amount of suffering. And when Allah loves a people, he tries them with affliction. Huh? And he who is content with it, with Allah's decree, has achieved acceptance of Allah. And he who is dissatisfied with it will attain the anger of Allah. So this is the reward I'm talking. That's what we've received. That's what we're in touch with. People can turn away from it, reject it, not believe it. Well, I don't know. What I mean, after somebody tells you this, nah, that ain't happening. Nah, I don't want. Nah, that ain't. It's like I don't know what to tell you. It's like, what? Okay, you turn away from that, then turn to what? 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 What do you turn to after you know that that's what has happened? Or somebody tells you this what happened, you say, nah, I don't believe it. Okay, well, what do you believe? Yeah, I mean, I could put a curse word phrase together that you all would get it and you would understand it, and you say, yeah, you know, but I'm not gonna do it. Listen, it's like, so what do you believe all this was for? What do you think it was all about? What do you think God has to do with all of this? I mean, if you can't figure God into the plan of this, you pretty messed up. Actually, it's like I can't even think about how somebody thinks about that. But you go ahead and think about it. I'm just like, but that's what has happened. So read the sentence, Fahim. It's this. Our reward is the ultimate grace from Allah, is that he has guided us to al-Islam. El-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'ma. Said, this day have I perfected for you your way of life. Think about the people who all their multiple ways of life were taken from him and they were made into a whole new people. That's another critical thing, that we were multiplicity from different tribes and different geographies on the continent, that we were whoever we were, Wolof, we were, Fulani, we were whoever else we were, and we all put out that everybody in the end becomes Negro. So all that was taken away. So you had no way of life after that dehumanization process. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided us to the perfect way of life. That is something that can do everything that needs to be done in the mind, heart, and spirit of a people. Allah has given us a total package, deemed perfect. And that not upon somebody else's cultural take, not upon somebody else's experience and history, but upon your own original human identity, unmediated by any other human being. That's that independence that sometimes it's just not appreciated the way it's like. Let me go on because I know what's coming at the end of this, so I won't keep saying that, and you'll get to it. 49:13. Now we want to understand the issue of nations and tribes. 49:13. I'll just read an expression of it, where it says, "O mankind, indeed we created you from a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes that you might know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the one who is most righteous of you. Surely Allah is the knowing and the acquainted." So the Lughah al-Arabiya actually is يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعرفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. صدق الله العظيم. Excuse me. Okay, so the root term, the Arabic, the root term in this verse translated as nations is sha'aba. That's from sha'aba, also the root from my dad's name. Shuaibe is also connected with the same or from the same root. It carries the meaning of to separate, to break apart, to branch forth, etc. It speaks to the anthropological process by which a group of individuals become a nation, distinct from another group of people. A collection of individuals can begin together, but the extent to which one group of people or persons diverge in an environment and experiences over time and for generations from another. So you have one group, they were together, then that group gets separated from that group, right? And the less they remain in touch with each other in environment and experience, then the less they remain the same people. So that separation, another people, through that separation, another people come into existence. They used to be together, they got separated, and the difference in environment, difference in experience created new people, new nations, groups out of a larger group become a smaller group, which that group becomes a separate nation. The root term in the translation that is translated as tribe, Qabala, right? Qabala, the root for it. It carries the meaning to meet, to come together, to correspond, to move towards or come towards, etc. It speaks to the anthropological process by which individuals become a group in and among themselves. And the term for that is a tribe. So you have one group, larger group, separated, smaller groups, nation, born out of different environment, different experience over generations. So now they were together, but now they're different, right? Tribes, so you have a group of people, the individuals come together, right? And those individuals, what happens for them is the more those persons share an environment and share an experience. They were different before, but now here they are together. And with the shared experience and the shared environment and the accompanying effects over time for the generation, the more they become the same people. That's what I just said about the slavery, the whole chattel slavery. Like, as nations on the African continent, you have East African, West African, Central African, except North and South African, etc. Wherever the chattel slave was captured from, taken from, etc., and brought over here, so they were all different. They were different, but then when they came here, and now that shared experience, that shared environment over time, they became the same people. We became a tribe. Farad talks to us, calls us the tribe of Shabazz, right? We became a tribe. How do we become a tribe? We came from different tribes and different nations, but because of the shared environment, the shared experience over generations, we are the same people here, but we're different than from who we were there. We are not that people, just literally, concretely, materially, objectively, factually. We are not those people. You can say that, but you got to ask yourself, why am I trying to hold on to that in that sense? The DNA side of it, yes, all that's there, all that's true. But from the anthropological, the sociological perspective, we're not the same. And that's something to be accepted because, again, Allah has made us anew. He has made us new. It's not a rejection. It's like, well, you hate yourself, you hate Africa. It's just like, oh, come on, man, stop it. It's like, these are the facts of what has happened, and it is in the plan of Allah. It's not like, I don't know. I don't even know why. Otherwise, it would say. I'm not going to try to figure that out right here. The idea is like, once you put God into the plan, once you put God into the process, He said, "Okay, well, alhamdulillah, this is this is a blessing. This is the reward after the suffering, right? And actually, the reward was actually inside the suffering, but we hadn't comprehended it at the time, and who could? In the total system of history for the once captured chattel slave in America, and by the same process, the divergence from the environment and the experiences of Africa over time and for generations, the Negro, the Black people, African Americans, etc., came into existence. We didn't exist. Then by their process, we came into existence. So a new people were formed, new non-Africans. We say Bilalians. When I talk too much, it's that aggravation does come in. All right. So that's the why and the how of our new existence. Understanding the solution abstractly, because we're saying solution to it all, the label of it all. We covered all this in the past couple of episodes, but let's just keep going. Understanding the solution abstractly, which is the low resolution. We can say, okay, we're Bilalians, right? Okay, the higher resolution, the concrete reality is that is a type of Bilalian. All right, let's follow. Here's my analogy. The analogy is Europe and European, right? Europe and European. When we say European, that includes France, and you get the French. Italy, you get the Italians. Portugal, you get the Portuguese. We could say Spain, you get the Spanish, and you can just keep going on. But they are all Europeans, right? Based on the labeling that's been accepted. They're all Europeans. French, European. Italian, Europeans. Portuguese, European. Spanish, European. They're all European. Okay, what about Bilalians, right? To get to this higher resolution aspect, or rather than just the blanket, Bilalians are people of African descent living in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, that's the low resolution. That's the low resolution. So let's move it up. The higher resolution of what? Bilalians are people of African descent living in the Western Hemisphere, and that becomes the geography. That is, that becomes, we could even be called, that is this area, pardon me, I should say, it could even be called, that whole, the Western Hemisphere where we reside. And when you're talking about us, it could be called Biladul Bilaliun, Bilaliyin. Biladul Bilaliyin. Bilal is the country of the Bilalians, or the region of the Bilalians. So it's like Bilal Sudan when you talk about the land of the blacks. So it's the land of the Bilalians. The Western Hemisphere. It's like, it's our map, right? It's the people of African descent living in the Western Hemisphere. It's like wherever they are, that area is Bilad al-Bilaliyin. That is the land of the Bilalians. I hope you stand with me. So Western Hemisphere, where those people who are the products and the generations of the chattel slave, transatlantic slave system, etc., where are they? Where do those people reside? they reside in the Western Hemisphere, and wherever they are, that is the land of the Bilalian, right? Then, that is, you take the general area, just like the whole area we call Europe, with all the way that it breaks down, and we say, if we could say the Western Hemisphere, Biladul Bilaliyin, you have that area, then every one of their particular cultures and geographies, Muslim and non-Muslim, can be distinctly identified by their own names and cultures. Yet all of them can identify in the commonality of Bilal due to the truth. Listen, when you go to the Caribbean, when you go to all the other areas where we are in the Western Hemisphere, that is descendants of the chattel slave system, wherever we are, no matter where, if you're in Costa Rica, you're in Jamaica, you're in Haiti, wherever you are, it's like, why are you there? How'd you get there? It's like, no, that DNA is the DNA of the products of are the descendants of the generations from the chattel slave system. And so, therefore, there is that common history, whether you call yourself a Christian today, or whether you call yourself, whether you follow some other traditional religion in those areas. The point is that, how'd you get there? You came by way of the same system. And to that extent, that Bilal is the embodiment and the archetype of that experience. And those who are here, by and large, come through that mechanism, then Bilal is still the correct archetype. It's the correct icon. It's the correct label. It's the correct identification from a master narrative historical point of view, which is what the master narrative and what a name is supposed to do, as we've already said. It's supposed to talk to you about, or say to you, where you come from, how'd you get there, and who you are, and aspirationally, who you hope to be. So Bilal does that for all people of African descent living in the Western Hemisphere. Whether you identify as a Muslim or not, that history of that individual is typical of the DNA, the generations that reside in these locations in the Western Hemisphere right now. I hope you get it. If it's not clear, you can ask me as we go on. Yet each one can have their own uniqueness, hold their own uniqueness sacred. So it's like, you don't have to give up who you are, where you are, and what you are as you are in that, but still have the Bilalian. Just like a European can be a Frenchman, an Italian, or a Portuguese, same way. A Bilalian can be a Jamaican Bilalian, a Nicaraguan Bilalian, a Brazilian Bilalian, a Cuban Bilalian, etc. And in that vein, we could be the, on the whole, that is, we can be the whole. I gotta slow myself down. In that vein, we could be the whole, Muslim and non-Muslim. I'm missing a particle there. We can be on the whole. Yeah, we can be on the whole, both Muslim and non-Muslim, American Bilalians. All right. So, and for those who are Muslims, just Bilalian Muslims. Right. Now, you got to deal with that America piece. It is not the final answer, but this is one that I'm comfortable with right now. Because there's so much psychological stuff we got to deal with when it comes to us and that. No, I ain't no American. Okay, look, the United Snakes of America, and America. I get it. I understand. I mean, we have some very eloquent rhetorical ways to get back at that America. I get it, right? But understand this. American as a term can be treated geographically more than politically. And even if you just say geographically and not even politically, to identify with those, how many letters is that? Those 8 letters. It's like, look, we're not talking about the politics. We're not talking about the injustice, the racism, the Jim Crow, the slavery, etc. This is geographically where we are right now. It is called America, right? So if one prefers, if you prefer, but if the individual can follow the logic of the thought that brought the name, i.e. Bilalian, then it's not the American. I'm saying Imam W.D. Muhammad, the same idea that brought Bilalian. It has its idea about America, and this is a part of it. It's not the America of the past that's embraced when you use that label. It's not the America of the past, right? Just like Tyson, for example. Tyson, restate for us real quick. When you say black, the label that you use.
For the program.
Building
That's
leadership, building leadership. Yeah. Go ahead.
Building leaders and the activists with collective knowledge. Building leaders and
the activists with collective knowledge. All right. I'm a press you. I'm press you on this one right here. Just to stick to go with my analogy of what I'm trying to do. What did do, if you know, Tupac, when he said nigga, right? Nigga, didn't they have a translation for that? That's an acronym for something. Do you happen to know that?
Yeah, I think about that
Okay,
one.
work it out. Work it out.
Getting goals accomplished is like the GGA, getting goals accomplished. I can't remember what the NI was right now. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. So the point is that different language systems have different applications. There's even a translation for thug, etc. So the point is, it depends on what language system you are using a terminology out of. So when for us to even suggest to holding on to that in this particular, the idea is that there's the America that quote unquote Trump thinks about, right? And all those that are on that wagon, and hey, vote for Trump if you want to vote for Trump, and vote for Kamala if you want to vote for Kamala. Mashallah, remember Carter G. Woodson. So the idea is, when I say that, it's not the America of the past. It is the abstract America that is still valid and aspired to. See, just like our names, it's a fact and it's an aspiration, right? Fahim Shuaibe, it's a fact and it's an aspiration. I am some of that, but then there's more of that for me to be, right? America is the same thing. America is some of that, and there's more of that of America's aspirations that are yet to be fulfilled, right? So in the abstract America, that's what we're speaking of, that is still valid and aspired to in the Declaration of Independence. It's still to acknowledge consciously, to do so is, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Forget about the hypocrisy of all the slave owners that signed that Declaration of Independence. Okay, yes, that was it. They were all men of their time, and yes, they had slaves, whoever among them who did, etc. But that is not a lie. It is a fact that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. We subscribe to that, and it's more Islamic than it is Christian or Jewish. So it's like, we're not going to throw that baby out with the bathwater. If you don't like the label, then okay, I understand why, but that's because you're only looking out of one of your eyes. You got to look at both of your eyes so you can see the depth of what's actually being said, and set aside the part that is reprehensible when that name is applied. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because in reality, there's no place on earth, though hypocritical there, that we know, the people who are in the leadership of it in the main, unfortunately, I don't see so many outstanding examples of, people who are really doing the full aspirational American life. I know that there's some, but in the main, nah, that's not happening. But even so, that doesn't mean throw the whole thing out. So I know I'm saying a lot, but it needs to be said. So let's see if we can, yes, we're going to wind up. So Imam is telling us, because again, the idea is that when we're talking, we talked about Bilalians, we talked about Bilal, we talked about being Bilalians, we talked about how we can keep the connection in the Western Hemisphere with wherever we are, because there's a two-tiered, I'll say, relationship to it. There's a tier of the relationship that means that, look, how do we all get over here in the Western Hemisphere? I know we all is a broad statement, but how do we get over here in the Western Hemisphere? It was the transatlantic slave trade. We were distributed in the Western Hemisphere to be slaves in these different plantations, different locations. That's how we got here. Okay, so that is Bilal right there. And to the extent, and whenever you got your autonomy, your independence, the end of slavery in your land in the Western Hemisphere, okay, so there again, that's Bilal all over again. That's so all of us are Bilal in no matter where we are in the Western Hemisphere, because all of us have that unique shared history. Now, what has grown out of it in that particular location, not to just overemphasize, but in that particular location, you're Bilal, you're still Bilal, but you're Jamaican Bilal, you're Costa Rica Bilal, you're Puerto Rican Bilal, whatever the case may be. All right. Now, the pushback, this statement, I have to read this statement just because of the pushback. Yeah, you got to ask yourself, what am I going to hold on to when I reject that, right? And where's my master narrative? If I reject that, then where's my master narrative? What explains who I am and why I am, where I am, as I am? What does that for you? What's your name that does that for you? If you don't have a name that does that for you, both the concrete and the abstract aspects of it, that's a part of your psychological incompleteness. And that's a part of your human incompleteness. This response, this reply, this application is adapt this application, adopt this understanding, adopt this labeling, and in the context of what it actually means and what it actually is and how it fits the anthropological, sociological, cultural realities of how nations become nations, tribes become tribes. They get sustained by their master narrative, which is also a storied individual who embodies all of that. When you get that, now you can really move on with your life in a very formal, autonomous way. Let's finish it. To push back on the pushback, right? So the Imam says, now look how one man can orient all the nations and the different, let's go back. That he can orient all the nations and all the different subjects. It can orient them so that they agree in his kind of perception and orientation. This is what the Imam is inviting us to. This is what I'm continuing to invite us to. Yes, we're inviting to a different kind of perception and orientation. And then the Imam goes on to say, and then another one comes up and challenges him and puts him out of business, makes his thought obsolete or backwards, and then have to come up into a whole new way of addressing the world and relating to it or perceiving it. That should tell you something. That should make you want to get into the race, not the color race, the race for excellence in every field. That should make you want to get into the race, because who wants their life subject to somebody's experiment? That's what they're telling us. They're telling us that our life, our future, and the way we think, the way we see things is depending on how certain intellectuals or certain gifted people, they say, see the world. And one who sees the world that way, if he gets a majority to follow him, then he can make all of us conform to his way of seeing the world. I mean, literally, I think about the Mercator map and the Peters projection map. We've been given a map of the world that is totally incongruent with the reality of the lands that those maps show. Look it up. I'm not going to go into details of it. So look for the Peters projection map versus the Mercator map, and look at how old the Mercator map is. But that's somebody's idea that has dominated the world for generations and continues, because many just simply don't know the difference. But what is that? That's the battle between intellectuals to decide how the world sees itself and sees the world. Let's move on. So it says the way we see things is depending on how certain intellectuals or certain gifted people, they say, see the world. And one who sees the world that way, if he gets a majority to follow him, then he can make all of us conform to his way of seeing the world. And if you study the history, if you study the history of philosophy, the history of the sciences, you will see that the world has been changing its way of looking at the world and its way of thinking and its way of identifying man and life, all down through the ages, all down through the ages. So the point is, as we pointed out last week, like Caucasian, where did Caucasian come from? As an application to, okay, we're the Caucasians. And then the world buys into it because those who are in control of the means of information say, okay, Caucasian. That's all you hear. That's what you're shown. That's what you take, and you buy into it. What's the foundation for it? The foundation for it is somebody's idea and the power to promote that idea. And then the world gets folded into that idea, and those are the glasses that everybody puts on, and that's the way that they see the world. And it is hard as hell, excuse the language, but it's hard as hell to get people, hey, look, take those glasses off, put these other glasses on, so that you can see the world in a better way and in a different way, in a way that's more consistent with your reality. So to conclude this, brothers and sisters, I'm going to play a clip from the Imam that emphasizes and that underscores, and you can hear it from him, the idea that we are a new people. And I say again, as I step away from that to play the Imam's clip, it's only about 5 minutes, that it's not rhetorical, it's not metaphorical, it's not abstract, it's not virtual. This is the actual fact. You and I are a new people. We are not the people that we came from. We are the people that we become in this new environment and situation vis-a-vis speciation. So let's listen to the Imam on that statement, and then we're going to sign off for today.
Secondly, Imam Muhammad, you have said in the past that significant cultures have developed their own schools of law or madhabs in Islamic history. Do you still hold that Islam in America will develop its own school of law or madhab in the future? What are some of the contributions that Islam in America can make to the traditions of Islamic law?
The next question, do you still hold, does W.D. Muhammad still hold to his belief or his position on madhabs and Islamic law for America? Yes, I still hold strongly. In fact, I'm even more strongly holding on to that belief now than I was when I mentioned it several years ago. Yes. Why? Because when we study the development of schools of thoughts for Muslims in the old world, Africa, Saudi Arabia, and other places, these schools don't conflict with each other, but they address different problems and issues, and in their own special way. And they had more in common with each other because of them being contemporaneous, existing in the same time, with the same situations for mankind in the known world of that time. They had more in common than we have now, being 1,000 years away from them, almost, and continent away from them, and a very new human society in America and in the world now. I think it's necessary for them to even read and restudy their madhabs in light of the changes that have come about on earth to modernize man for good and bad, to it, better educate the public for good and bad. We need to study all it, the different kinds of environmental situations we have and conditions we have affecting the human soul today, and challenging religion to keep itself pure and to keep its own genuine characteristics and nature. We have to study this again. And for us in America, we are new people. I heard the Christian respondent referring to us as a special people, and that's exactly what we are. Before slavery and our migration to the north and our presence here now on this earth, there were no people such as we are on this planet. We are definitely a new social group on this planet. God has created us again. The children were emptied of their life and put in slavery, and God has restored the human life to the human vessel again, and we are another people, a new people on this planet. You who study psychology and the development of society, you definitely will agree with me. Because I'm not only speaking with respect for my knowledge, I'm speaking with respect for science, the science of human life and nature and society. We are new people. We're definitely a new people on this planet Earth. We didn't exist before. So we are new thinkers. We don't think like Africans. We don't think like white people. We think like us. We don't think like Arabs. We don't think like Asians. We think like us. Now, why should the Islamic world be deprived of Islam being expressed through a new and innocent vessel?
Alhamdulillah. Yes, that's it. And that's what we have to say about that. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his blessing, for his grace, and we pray that he blesses us to embrace his grace in the best possible way. We are about 20 minutes over right now, but I hate to just cut off without any comment, but because it's so late, you must absolutely have in consideration the fact that we're over time. But I'm going to give an opportunity. If you have any comments that you'd like to make before your own leaving, go ahead and do so with respect to all of that. Now's the time. Tyson, if you have anything you want to say, as always.
No, I'm good. I'm going to pass, but it was great. Thank you again.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day. God bless us and guide us to the best. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. So we're out, y'all. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.